Hello everyone, and welcome to another Cook With Me session together in the kitchen. Tonight we're making raw sushi bowls, also called deconstructed sushi or anything in the like, but the inspiration for tonight's meal is basically turning your favorite sushi into a salad is pretty much what it is. So with all those delicious internal veggies that normally would get wrapped up into a nice little convenient roll, the rolls do take a fair bit of time. So in this form, they are more like a salad, a little bit faster to make, and possibly a little bit more, I guess you could say, veggie focused than we have with the traditional sushi roll. So that's the raw sushi bowl. And as everyone's logging in, can you please give me a little wave, a little hello? If those of you are watching this on the recorded version, I still want to hear your questions. So at any point that you have questions, please type away to us, and we can get on and answer those either a little bit later or more directly as we can available. So whatever you've got happening in your kitchen right now, let me know, are the kids cooking with you? Are you cooking away from home? Last time we had someone cooking from their caravan camping site, which was really awesome. So yeah, give me a little wave, say hello. And okay, let's get started straight away with our raw sushi bowl. Now, one piece of equipment you are going to need for tonight is going to be your food processor. So tonight I'm going to be using the Thermomix. Definitely any food processor that you've got is going to be beautiful for this purpose, because we're not going to be making traditional rice. This is something that's quite a bit faster. And for anyone that's trying to avoid grains or, doing the whole low carb thing for whichever reason, then the cauliflower rice is going to be a great option for you. So I'm going to show you that. And obviously there's a lot of other uses that you can use for the cauliflower rice too. So it can go with any stir fry. You could be having it just with a nice sauce, kind of like a pasta sauce. Anything you can think of where you would otherwise have rice. Generally speaking, we can do a version with the cauliflower rice, maybe except for fried rice. But you could probably still get the flavors and do something with that too. So we're going to be making cauliflower rice. I'm also going to show you what I call to be a raw or fresh kraut. So similar to sauerkraut. However, this is not going to be the fermented variety. This is the quick version. And this is kind of your substitute for ginger. So those of you that love having that ginger with your sushi, I want to show you the one that's A, pretty quick to use, B, involves a whole bunch of other yummy bits of fiber, as in through the cabbage, a lot of flavor, and it's a lot quicker also to make. But more importantly, it's not pink, which means, the traditional ginger you get that's pink in color, ginger's not meant to be pink, guys. So they're adding colors, they're adding additives, they're adding food acids, they're adding things to that I think that we can do better without. Okay, so I'm going to show you this quick version. It is extremely yummy and extremely healthy for you, but it's a way to get a bit of that ginger kick into your sushi, which I think is beautiful, and it rounds out the sushi bowl. Okay, so hello, we have an Amanda online. Welcome, Amanda. I hope you're online with Zoe. Hello, Zoe. Catherine, welcome. Thank you. Rebecca and Allison, awesome. Oh my gosh, so good to have you guys on tonight. Thank you. Question or a statement. Thank you, Rebecca. So eldest daughter came up from Brisbane to watch and is joining us in cooking. Thank you, eldest daughter. That's awesome. Allison, couldn't find cauliflower this hour, so you're working with brown rice. Okay, excellent. And that's a great point, Allison, is you can definitely use either or, whatever you'd prefer. Even a combination works well. And in a pinch, sometimes those of you that have started working with me over a period of time know that it's pretty easy to have cooked rice on hand, whether it's in the fridge for a couple of days or whether it's in the freezer. So in that case, even if you've got that as a backup and you're starting to get a bit more organized, then that's quick and easy to pull out as well for a quick sushi craving. All right, so let's get stuck into it. This is, I guess you could say, the vegetarian version of sushi. So I want to show you how many other flavors we can build into sushi. Is it traditional? No, probably not, but nothing that I do really is. And it's all for the purpose of bringing more variety into your diet, as well as hopefully a little bit more excitement, a little bit more color, eating the rainbow. And we're still going to be having that high kind of seaweed component, which is really good for the mineral balance. So getting extra awesome minerals into you, kind of your electrolytes, also known as, is really good to come from seaweed. So there's lots of benefits in this meal. And then we can kind of put on whatever sauces and special bits that you want to get into, which I'll cover. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So we're going to need your food processor. We're going to need your head of cauliflower, if that's what you're going to be using. Now, with this, I find that a lot of people tend to throw away all these leafy bits. So what I'd like to say is that these go really well in stock. So remember, some of you that have done these videos before have heard me talk about the extra container that I have on hand, either in the fridge or in the freezer. And that container is full of veggie scraps that are suitable for putting into stock or broth. So when you make a homemade broth, you're going to be getting all the nutrients and all the benefit that come from this because you've already paid for it. You're going to be extracting that into the water of the broth and then benefiting for whenever else you need to use broth. So I'm going to keep those aside for that purpose because they're great for that. So we get a little head of cauliflower left. You know what? Because I have a fair amount of veggies to wash, let's do it properly. Let's run a little bowl of cold water, or a big bowl, with a little bit of vinegar in it. So a dash of vinegar in the water just to help clean up the veggies. And we'll get that started in there. Okay. Now with the cauliflower rice, you want to be sure that we're not getting any extra water into the cauliflower rice, because otherwise it's going to be fairly liquidy and it might make your salad feel a little bit more soggy. So we kind of want to get that as dry as we can within reason. And then likewise with the herbs. So when you wash herbs, they're going to hold a lot of extra liquid. So I would ideally recommend that if you're going to wash them fresh now, that maybe you give them a spin dry with a salad spinner, or you give them a really good shake. Okay, I have pre-washed these for that purpose so that I don't have to kind of do that extra step here for your time-wise. So I'm going to be using fresh garden parsley that we've got growing still, which has been amazing, and some coriander. Now this coriander is organic, it's awesome, but you know, I should have probably used it a couple of days ago. In this case, it's perfect for that use though, because it's going to be getting kind of blitzed up into cauliflower rice. So that's perfectly fine. There's not any bad bits, it's just not super full of life at the moment. That's all right. This one is full of life, and little crawly life, because it's that fresh from the garden. You, Mr. Ant, don't need to be in there. Okay, so cauliflower rice. Now, those of you that have never had it before, you know, you're open to new things. It's not the same nice chewy texture of rice. It's very fresh, it's very light, and it's, you know, we need to add kind of those extra flavors into it to kind of make it something a little bit more than just cauliflower. All right, and so what I'm going to be doing is showing you kind of how we're going to create those other flavors. We're going to use herbs. We're going to use a little bit of good quality salt, whether you've got Himalayan salt or Celtic salt, that's excellent. And then we're also going to be using a bit of dulse flakes. Now, if you're not familiar with dulse flakes, you might be using kelp or something similar to that. This is what dulse looks like. So it's just a kind of a flaked form of seaweed, a dried seaweed, and it's full of amazing minerals, okay, and benefit. Does it taste fishy, smell fishy? Yes, kind of, as much as you'd expect seaweed to. But when it works in the sushi bowl, it just kind of all works. And especially when we get into that rice sort of feel with the cauliflower rice, it just works beautifully. So it's a great opportunity for you to be getting those added amazing sources of minerals in their perfect ratios, okay? So we're going to be using the dulse. All right, so now what we're going to need to do in most food processors is process this rice in batches so that you don't end up with some mush at the bottom and some big chunks on top. So the smaller batch size that you process at once, the more you're going to be happy with a consistent texture. All right, so what does that mean? We're going to start, probably this is a pretty small head of cauliflower, so I'm going to go maybe half at once. Okay, so half of those pieces. And then with the herbs, because we're going to only be blitzing this for maybe 2 seconds, it's not necessarily going to do a very good job of chopping the herbs to the perfect texture. So we are going to just do those a little bit by hand first. Now I've only called for a couple of tablespoons of fresh herbs. I'm going to add extra simply because I absolutely love that extra flavor of the greens in there, okay? So again, anytime that you find yourself with a kind of long, skinny piece of something, sometimes, this is a bit fat, but sometimes we can actually chop it and then put it on top of each other so that we have our time chopping, okay? And it's going to save us time in the long run. It's these little skills and these little tricks that if you do over and over and over, eventually you'll end up saving hours, potentially days, of your overall food preparation time. So we do want these initial pieces to be fairly tiny to begin with, just because we don't want to have to rely on the food processor to perfectly chop the herbs. Okay, so fairly tiny pieces to begin with. And I don't know if you noticed, but I used most of the stems of the coriander as well. Okay, so the stems are amazing. If they're chopped fine enough, they're excellent in flavor, they're excellent in nutrition. And then with these last little bits, with the root bit, that is great for flavor and nutrition in our stock or broth again. So that's going to go in that pile. Okay, so a couple last little stem bits. Now this is far too much. So I'm just going to grab a little mixture of that. Well, I shouldn't say far too much. You might like having it more of like a tabbouleh kind of texture, consistency. I'll just put some of that in with the cauliflower. Okay, up to you. I'll let you go. That's purely a flavor base. Okay, so just if you're not sure, add less, and then you can have a taste, and then you can kind of correct and measure. Now, when it comes to the dulse flakes, approximately 2 tablespoons. All right. So you can put half in this batch and half in the other, or all in one. It doesn't really matter. While we're at it, let's just do all of it in one. Everything's going to be getting mixed in a big bowl after that. So that's our dulse flakes, and we're going to need some salt and some nutritional yeast. The nutritional yeast is a bit of a secret ingredient, okay? So it's that one flavor that just makes it, you know, when somebody bites into it, they're just going to go, oh, wow, what is that flavor? And some people can't really pick it, but it just kind of gives it, it's not really a cheesy thing, but it's just a nice little extra dimension of flavor. So about 2 tablespoons of the nutritional yeast. All right, and then we come to the salt. Now keep in mind that there's not a lot of sauce that's going to be going over this. So we kind of want each individual component of the dish to taste wonderful on its own. With cauliflower, it's fairly plain, it's fairly straightforward, okay? So I've called for 1 solid teaspoon of salt into this dish. If you had a really tiny, tiny head of cauliflower, you might put a little bit less, okay? This one was pretty small, so I'm just going to put a fraction less, but we will still need the full teaspoon of salt, pretty much, to create that flavor for our cauliflower rice. Okay, now we're going to give this a first little blitz. So if you're using a Thermomix, I'm probably going to go up to, say, speed 6 for a second and a half, just under 2 seconds maybe, okay? The key here, the reason why I don't give you specific numbers or times in your food processor instructions is because I'd rather you develop a feel for the food and what's happening in it, rather than rely on purely instructions. Because if you rely purely on instructions, you're not actually necessarily learning a skill, okay? And then therefore, when you go to do something else and it doesn't go right, you won't exactly know why or what to do differently. So when I say go by feel, start with less time if you're not sure, okay? Just hit the blitz button if you've got a little pulse button, and do that a couple times until you get a feel for the texture that we're after. All right, so I'm going to start with about 6 seconds. I'm going to crank it up really quickly so it hits it, and then stop it at about 1.5 seconds. Okay, so it's very quick. We're going to check that. We might need to do it again. Okay, so see the texture that we've got there? It's maybe a little bit big still. Okay, so I'm going to blitz that for another like half a second. Better to be under and do it again than it is to go over. All right, and then we're going to need a bowl because we're going to combine everything together now. So find yourself a nice big bowl that you can work with. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Nice big bowl. All right, so there's our kind of cauliflower rice texture with most of our herbs and the rest of our spices. So this is going to be kind of diluted a little bit when we put the rest of the cauliflower in. Doesn't need to be perfectly clean this time because we're going again. So back on there for batch number 2. So the rest of the cauliflower in. Okay. And a little bit more herbs. Not a lot. There we go. Okay. Hit it. There we go. All right, check it again. So we had a bit of a different mixture this time. So still, if you feel like you want a nice fine texture, you might want to go again. This is looking okay, especially for salad form. But if you were doing it in a wrap form, in the roll, the sushi roll, you might want to go a little bit thinner than that. But given that we're eating it as a salad, that's going to be absolutely okay. Okay, and worst case scenario, you go too long. So let's say you went too long and it went a little bit soft and a little bit fine. You could put it on some paper towel and just dab some of the extra moisture that would come out of it, and then you should still be fine to use it like that. Unless it's gone kind of like soup, you should be okay to still use it. Okay, so we'll make sure we get all of those little good bits out of there. We're going to be done with the food processor from this point. So there we go. Okay. And then let's toss that so it's nice and evenly mixed. How's everyone going? Hello, Neve. Welcome back. I haven't seen you in ages. Got my times wrong, so I've started a few elements already. Okay, thank you. Yes. So guys, sorry if you didn't catch that memo. We're going to start doing it at 6 from now on. We've had enough feedback from everyone asking if we could do it just that half an hour later. So we're going to do 6 o'clock from now on, and then we're going to do also, instead of some Wednesdays, we're going to start doing some Sunday brunches. Okay, so we're going to get to do some different foods with you. I'm excited about that. Okay, and hello Shirley, welcome, and Leanne's on, love your Thermomix. Yes, me too. Excellent, guys. Okay, so at this point, have a taste of that. What is it, how's it going? What does it need? Okay, keeping in mind it's going to be with things, but we still want this component in and of itself to taste good. Is there the right balance of saltiness? We just want you to be able to bite into it and think, yum, okay? We're not trying to mimic rice here. It's more just, we want a yummy base to build our salad on. Okay, so if you're happy with that one, we're gonna put that one aside while we make the other components of the dish. And likewise, I'm gonna put my extra herbs aside as well. Okay. Those will be yummy in nearly any other dish. Probably breakfast soup. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is the fresh kraut. And that's the reason why we're going to do that next is because we want it to kind of sit and soften a bit before we serve the salad. So you're going to need a cabbage of any kind. I've used Asian cabbage, I've used red cabbage, I've used green cabbage. This is a sugarloaf cabbage, which is going to be a little bit sweeter. With cabbage, the key, and I guess for the feel of this part of the dish, it's going to be nicer if you can get this really thin and fine. So if you've got a really sharp knife, that's going to be doable. Otherwise, if you want to get out your mandolin or something else, I guess that will facilitate that thin chopping. If you weren't using a Thermomix and you were using a traditional food processor, then you could get out your thin slicing blade and put that on and just put the cabbage through that. But we're not going to be doing a whole bunch. Like, we're not going to be making a huge batch of sauerkraut, so you should be fine to just get some really thin slices with a knife. Okay, we don't need a heck of a lot for this dish unless you want to be making extras and having it on a different type of meal another day. So see how fine I'm kind of talking here? We want it nice and fine. It's quite thin. Okay, the finer you get it, the better it's going to feel in the mouth. So this is meant to just be a kind of a carrier of the ginger flavor in the sushi, as opposed to feeling like you're eating sauerkraut. Okay, that's not the intention. It's mostly to be a nice little sweet surprise in the dish, a little bit like the ginger pieces you'd otherwise have. And this does taste pretty good the next day. So some nice thin pieces. I've called for about 3 cups. Now, again, if you're new to it and you're not sure, you do not have to do that much. You can just kind of scale it back. But it's going to shrink a lot when we've finished working with it, so keep that in mind. Especially if you want to serve sort of 4 to 6 people with this. We're going to need a fair bit of cabbage because it's going to shrink. Okay, so I'm just trying to shave the cabbage. Even if you kind of slip up and only cut half the slice, it's probably better because you're then getting nice thin pieces. There we go. Okay, that's going to be good for now. So we'll cut through that a couple of times because we want smaller pieces to be able to massage with our ginger. There we go. We don't want coleslaw, but we do want kind of the smaller, thin strips of that. And then we're going to need a bowl to do that in. Okay. How's everyone going so far? Awesome to the Sunday sessions. Yes, okay, I'm glad you're excited about that. Good, because the more feedback we get from you guys, the better. So I'm curious to know, what would you like us to be doing on Sunday sessions? Because I've had some different ideas from people, and it's good to hear your guys' feedback, what you want to do for Sunday sessions. And maybe, hopefully, the family can be more on board on a Sunday morning. So thank you, Alicia. Neve, can't do ginger. Right, okay, so have to put some crushed garlic in. Excellent. Would you recommend anything else? This is probably then going to be just a great a great substitute for having like the regular ginger with your sushi. So that's awesome. So yes, garlic is a great thinking. And maybe then you want to make it a little bit more special with having a little bit of the honey or the, you know, the coconut sugar still with that. I'm not sure if you guys can have that stuff. But yeah, garlic, I don't think you guys can do chili. Otherwise, I'd say you can do some chili, make it a bit interesting. Maybe in future, just make sure that you've got some of the daikon radish. So I would put the radish through that instead as well. But good call on the garlic there, Neef. Excellent. Okay, so we've got our cabbage. Now the next step is we just literally put the rest of the ingredients in there. So we're going to get the ginger. Using fresh ginger, I would highly recommend instead of anything that comes out of a squeezy tube. Or, you know, you can get organic ginger in a jar, and that's good too. But fresh is always best, okay? There's just a little bit more life and oomph left in it at that point. So I'm just going to, we don't really need to peel it, especially if you've got really nice young ginger. And we don't need a heck of a lot because ginger packs a good punch. But we're just going to kind of clean up an end. Now notice I didn't chop off the piece that I was going to be using, okay? Because I need this as my handle. So I see that a lot when people go, okay, how much ginger do I need? They cut it, and then they've got nothing to hold the piece with, and then they're like cutting their fingers, things like that. And then we're just going to need a little grater. If you haven't got a little grater, you can cut it up with your knife, just really fine, just mince it up. Otherwise, just give this a good little grate. And I'm not even going to measure here necessarily, but we're looking for, you know, anywhere from about a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons if you really love ginger and you love that kind of extra spicy flavor. The difference with this and the pickled ginger that you'd be getting kind of at a sushi place is that that stuff has been pickled, and it's been pickled in a lot of sugar. So they're taking away a lot of the kick, whereas this one's going to give you some quality ginger effect, as in therapeutic effect, okay? So if you're not sure, just put a little bit less in, and then you'll know for next time. Probably good if you do write down how much you did use so that you have a reference point for next time as well. And it tends to get stuck on the bottom of the grater, so make sure you get all that goodness as well. And then this just can live in the fridge as is for next time, all right? So that's our ginger. Then we're going to need a little bit of salt and a little bit of coconut sugar. Now, you do not have to add the sugar, okay? This is totally optional. The reason why I'm including it is so that it can, as best as possible, mimic what people are expecting with the ginger that you get on sushi, which is traditionally quite sweet, believe it or not. And again, we're not having this as the entire salad. We're having a little bit on the side. So if you have that little bit of sweet on the side, it's not the end of the world, especially if you're using a quality addition to that. And it's just going to, I guess, bring a little bit more depth and interesting, I guess, combinations of flavors. So entirely up to you on the sugar aspect on that one. Okay, so about a half a teaspoon of salt on this one. Okay, and the salt is actually important here because it's going to help to draw out the liquid from the cabbage, which is important because we're trying to create a kraut. And so that salt is actually a really important step for that process. And then the coconut sugar, depending on how you like it, probably not quite a full tablespoon. I think I've called for 2 teaspoons, yes, of the coconut sugar in that. All right, now you need to get your hands dirty. So this is really most easily done if you do this by hand, because what we're going to be doing is mixing through the salt, most importantly, and the ginger through that, and then giving it a good squeeze and a good massage. And this process is actually going to be helping to draw out those liquids from the cabbage and to create our fresh kraut. So like I said before, we're not going to be sitting and fermenting this for a few days. We're going to be eating it fresh. And the intention of this is to kind of carry that ginger therapy, if you will, through the food. So you guys have probably heard me say, maybe many times before, well, I didn't originally say it, but agreeing with the belief that food is medicine. And the sooner you can understand just how powerful food can be for healing, the better your life gets, okay? It's just the more exciting, the more fun, the more enjoyable everything gets, the better you feel. So knowing how to use food for true vibrant health from the core root of your being, I guess is the skill that I think everyone deserves to have. So that's my goal, all right? To help you discover just how powerful food can be. That's all it takes. So as you can see, it kind of shrunk down a fair bit, and we started to get a lot of the liquid come out, so it's quite wet. It's not to the point where I can squeeze it and get liquid out. Maybe I'll get a couple drops. Yeah, I will, okay? but that's what we're looking for the fresh kraut. And then that's just going to be a little side dish with our sushi bowl. Okay, everyone still with me? Hello, Erica, welcome. Very cool. Okay, so we'll put this aside and then we'll cut up all the other ingredients for the sushi and start building our bowl. I'll put that aside, give my hands a little wash. There we go. Okay, now, the fairly key ingredient in this, and I hope everyone can have it, is avocado. And the reason for that, I think, is because it brings that nice, creamy, smooth texture in and amongst a whole bunch of other crunch textures. And it's my favorite part of the dish. So try not to be as devastated as I am if your avocados are not perfectly ready in time for this dish. Mine are borderline, but that's all right. We're gonna work with it. The other key ingredient are the shiitake mushrooms. So these mushrooms are amazingly different in their texture. Okay, they're very different to the button mushrooms, the traditional white mushrooms that you're going to get. They're also a lot more potent in a lot of their kind of food medicine qualities. Okay, so they are, again, a very common, I guess, food and I guess you could say that, well, they're a fungus, they're not a herb. They are a very common ingredient in a lot of the kind of more Eastern philosophy medicines. So, and the coolest thing is if you've never had a shiitake mushroom raw, the texture is really nice. It's a bit more firm than your traditional button mushroom. And some people have said to me that it kind of reminds them of a chicken-like sort of texture. So that's kind of is what it is. So we'll give them a little rinse and we'll just chop them up. So we'll pop them in there. Let's wash everything that we're going to be using for our veggies. Pop them all there, some snow peas, capsicum. Get that happening. Okay, so we don't want the mushrooms in there too long, so we'll take them out and get them started. We just don't want any little bits of dirt or anything left on them, but otherwise they should be good to go. And this is another concept of why I want to show you these recipes, because I want you to be able to get more variety into your diet, guys. It's so important. If you think about it in the sense of every single food that's, you know, edible to mankind is there for a reason. Everything has a different constitution, like a different makeup, if you will, of different nutrients and different components that are beneficial for us. So the more variety that we have in our diet, the more likely it is that our body's going to get what it might be otherwise missing. Okay, so even having a shiitake mushroom versus always buying the same button mushrooms is another step in that direction. And you'll probably be delighted and surprised with a whole bunch of other flavors and other textures and other, I guess, possibilities that you'll discover when you start trying to incorporate more variety into your diet. So just some thin strips, that's all we wanted with that. And I'm just going to build a platter so that when we build our salads, everyone can kind of customize how they want to do that. All right. Now, capsicum. What color have you guys got? It's a good time of year for capsicum. I'm going to use a red and a yellow. So I'm just cutting around the base, and then once that opens up, I can take out that stem. Okay, and then pop that into the compost. Take out the seeds. And you don't have to worry about too much of the white bits, but the seeds are most important to get rid of there. Now, everyone has a different texture preference. Some people like big chunky bits of things, other people like really fine shredded things. So keeping in mind this is going into a salad bowl, it doesn't necessarily matter what size you cut it, whereas if you were going to be rolling the rolls, we'd need them long and skinny. Okay, so up to you. I still prefer a nice long skinny piece, but I might cut them in half after so they're a bit more bite size. Generally speaking, if you're not sure, in this case, err on the side of smaller than bigger pieces. It's just going to make it nicer when you go to grab a bite of the salad. So with those long, skinny pieces, I'm going to go in half. There we go. Okay. And in half. And there's our yellow capsicum for the sushi bowl. Now, again, like I said before, I know that I'm not using necessarily traditional ingredients in a sushi. And if I've offended anyone of the traditional Japanese culture, I apologize. That's not the intention. My intention is to get more variety, more veggies into your world, and hopefully show you other ways of having delicious salads. So in my opinion, this is just a really cool salad. Okay. Don't have to use the word sushi. We could just call it a deconstructed salad with seaweed in it. All right, now our snow peas, we're just going to give them a little unzip just to see, make sure we don't have any long strings in them. So if you haven't seen me do that already, we want to find the tip that has like the little zipper, and we're going to pinch that and pull, and then I like to grab the other end and see if we're going to get a peel off the other end. So there could be a string on both sides. Depends on your snow peas. Sometimes you don't get any strings. No strings attached. All right, so with the snow peas, you guys are here, I'm here all night. Any laughter and applause in the crowd would be great. Just kidding. We want to have another thin strips, okay? But again, depends on you. If you love snow peas, the more you love a food, the bigger the piece you'll probably cut it into, because then when you bite into it, you get to taste that full piece in all of its glory. So that's entirely up to you. With the snow peas, I generally put them on a diagonal cut, but with this recipe, I tend to like to go straight down the lengthwise cut. So we're unzipping, making sure no one's going to choke on any strings. There we go. Okay, so you can grab a couple at a time, stack them up in line, and we're just going to cut maybe once down the middle. Now, if that's not quite bite-sized enough, which I would probably say it isn't, we can go in half again. That's one option. Next option is you grab maybe 3 or 4 again in a stack, and we're just going to go on an angle, so fairly sharp angle. Okay, and then you get nice, thin, skinny pieces of your snow pea. So very different, okay? And I know it doesn't look that different, but when you bite into it, it does make a difference. We're going to use all of it. There's our snow peas. Hey, Reardon, thank you for joining us. Welcome. I wonder if is this your first cook with me, Reardon? I'd love to know. See how you guys are going. Okay, so a couple more slices. At the end of the day, we just want to pile this into a bowl and eat it. Let's get it done. I'd be curious to know, those of you that have been doing Cook With Me for a little while, I know I haven't been physically in the kitchen with you kind of showing you how to cut things, but I'd be curious to know if you feel like any of your kitchen skills have improved already. I would love to hear about that, because that helps me know, I guess, how to help more people, depending on what you guys get out of this. So please do share those types of things that you observe. Positive or negative, I'm happy to have all feedback. Now, I haven't called for tomatoes in the dish, but I had these heirloom tomatoes. They're orange, they're green, they're yellow, they're red. They're so beautiful that I want to do them justice in this dish. So I'm just going to do a couple little rounds, just to be able to show off their colors and their shape. Okay, so a couple little bits of tomato. Again, totally not traditional, I understand, but I'm going to go with this as a salad. Look at that, a green tomato. It's actually speckled. I can't remember what they're called, these ones, but they're a beautiful heirloom tomato. They'll be tasting very different to what you might be expecting if you're used to the kind of traditional supermarket tomatoes. So there's some other options for our salad. Okay, moving through, we got some cucumber. I'm not going to do that other capsicum, and then we've got some avocado. If you have daikon radish and you happen to have a spiralizer, I would highly recommend spiralizing the daikon. It just is totally the finishing piece, icing on the cake, if you will. It's just a great touch. Okay, cucumber. Again, we're not doing it in a roll, so you don't have to do the half cut and then the long strips. So in this case, I like displaying the cucumber, so I'm going to actually go straight rounds. Nothing fancy, just nice, fairly thin rounds of the cucumber. There we go. Okay, this is one with a slightly tougher skin, so we want to go even thinner if you can, just to make it a little bit more palatable. I've got little wagon wheels rolling around here. How's everyone going? Neve, yes, I did miss your question about the cauliflower rice. Can't do dulse or nutritional yeast and wondering how to give it that extra flavor. Okay, good question. So we've got the salt in it, you've got the herbs in it. That should be a pretty good start, Neve. Otherwise, you could maybe drizzle a bit of the coconut aminos or the tamari. I'm not sure, can you have those ones? That could go through the cauliflower rice instead. Just a little bit, not enough to make it go brown, but just a little bit through. That would give it a nice bit of extra flavor. If you've already got garlic in the coleslaw, or sorry, the kraut aspect, then you probably don't need to add more garlic there. Could be nicer to keep that nice and simple than Neve. I hope that helps. Thank you for asking again. Sorry I missed it at the top. No, neither. No tamari, no okay. So what would you be doing next? It's good. You really challenge my creativity. I love it. What else could we be using? So you've got the fresh herbs, you've got the salt. We've already got garlic happening in the dish. You know what? You could potentially be doing, what other spices maybe you could be trying? Maybe a bit of paprika or a bit of smoked paprika. I mean, I know it's taking it in a slightly different direction, but we work with what we've got. If you can do smoked paprika, I'd probably try that next. I haven't done it, I'll be perfectly honest, but that's the first thing that came to mind is what I would do with those other types of I guess, restrictions. So let me know about that. Ooh, yeah, lemon or lime juice. Good idea, Allison. Awesome. Yes, that's a great idea. Good thinking. That's a great idea. You're the chef. I love it, Allison. Thank you. Yes, so lemon or lime juice. Great thinking. Okay. I'm trying to remember if Neve can have lemon or lime juice, but that's all right. Okay. Now, with the avocado, like I said, it's my favorite component of this dish, so don't be shy on it. However, the sooner you cut it, the sooner it's going to start to go brown. So if you're not fully ready to get into this and plating up of the dish, then you might want to hold off a little bit. I am pretty ready to eat, so we're going to do that way. Okay, so I've got one avocado. Can I do another? Let's see how we go here. This one might not be fully nice. Ooh, lucky. Okay. All right, so now when we're going to do the avocado, remember the trick. Easier if we cut it while it's still in the skin. So I'm going to take the back of the knife, as in the not sharp side, so I don't go through and cut myself. Okay, and we're going to just do some little strips so that we can fan it out in the salad. But before we take it fully all the way out, we're going to make sure that we don't have any blemishes on the underside of the skin. So this one's been cut previously. I'll take that brown edge off. Back of the knife. Go through it. It might even be easier if you get a smaller knife for this. This is quite wieldy. And by the way, you can still put yourself through it, so be careful. Okay, and then we're gonna need a spoon. So the scoop and flip technique. So we're gonna try to ease that out of the skin. Okay, going around the edges. And then if we can, we wanna try and flip it over and inspect, because sometimes we get those blemishes on the outside. So those ones we can just take off. And then we have our nice bit of avocado that we'll add on to our salad. Okay, so we'll check that guy. Yeah, a bit of skin left over. There we go. Okay, let's scoop this one. Maybe we'll get lucky. It's not the best time of year for avocados, so I apologize on that one. It is kind of an important part of the dish, but can't always be super choosy about what we gourmands want to eat when we want to eat it. And those of you that know what I'm up to at the moment, as far as my diet goes and my experiments, I have a very limited range of choices at the moment. So I'm very much looking forward to having this raw salad. It's so good, so exciting. All right, so there's our avocado. We could do another one of those. I'm going to leave that to the side for now because I've got enough to start with. Okay, we are nearly ready to plate up. Is everyone caught up? Any other questions? Yes, no citrus. Sorry about that, Neve. Let me know how you've managed it with the plain version. And I bet you it'll come together with all the other things you're going to bring into it. Okay, now one thing I have suggested is chili mayo. A couple ways of doing that, as well as our other spices and things. Okay, and I'm just going to get this out of the way so you guys can see this. Okay, now I've got some homemade mayo that I've got here, and oh yes, Neve, smoked paprika is a winner. Thank you. Awesome. Good. Okay. So I've got some mayonnaise, and in order to make it chili mayo, guys, it's as simple. Hopefully you've got some hot sauce on hand. Is putting a little bit of hot sauce, ideally homemade, into your mayonnaise. And then you can spice it according to your liking. So if you don't like it that hot, don't put too much in. If you like it hotter, you can either add more of your hot sauce or even just some individual chili paste on its own. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in, stir that through, and that's literally as simple as it needs to be for chili mayo. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this is because the chili mayo, or even just the Japanese mayos that you find and that you buy pre-made, please, please, please always check the ingredient list, because they are notorious for having things in there that you may not think you're eating, but you are. Okay, so just do check the ingredient list on that one. And then this is just a nice little bit for just a little drizzle or a little bit of dipping on the side. Otherwise, we always have your tamari sauce. If you're specifically avoiding gluten, make sure that you have the gluten-free tamari. There is one brand on the market that ruins it for all the other ones that still puts wheat in their tamari, so always check your labels. And then otherwise, there's a coconut aminos version of that without the soy or the wheat. So it's a coconut version. This does have a different taste though, and it's quite a bit sweeter, so just as a heads up. Those are some other sauce options you can have with it. And I like to buy my wasabi in the powdered form, because again, if you buy it in the tube form, there's a lot of preservatives, there's a lot of colors, there's a lot of, I guess, emulsifiers and things that they add in that I don't feel is necessary. So this is just a powdered form of wasabi. And as a matter of fact, it's not pure wasabi. And what you're going to get in the shops is not pure wasabi either, believe it or not. It's going to be largely horseradish. Tastes similar, much cheaper than wasabi. Wasabi is a very unique plant. It needs to grow right on a river's edge. It's very cool. So this one is a combination of horseradish with wasabi. And with this, we just mix it with a little bit of water and we get a nice wasabi paste. Okay, so that one you can find these at most Asian stores, but always read ingredient labels, guys, please. Okay. All right, let's plate up. I think we are ready to do that. With the toasted sesame seeds, up to you, completely optional, mostly for decoration, but if you do toast them, they do taste amazing. I've only got the black sesame seeds at the moment, so you can still toast them. It's just harder to tell when they're done. I'm just going to be putting them on fresh, just for the sake of decoration. But if you want that kind of extra added flavor, that toastiness to it, it doesn't take long under the grill, and I've detailed that all in the recipe. And those of you that have been watching a few of these Cook With Me lives, you've seen me do a lot of toasting of the nuts and seeds. So exactly the same technique. All right, so let's get ready to plate this up and get everyone eating dinner. Clear us up some room. There we go. Everyone caught up? Oh yes, Neve, and you made the egg-free mayo especially. That is awesome. It's going to make everything else, I guess, easier if you don't have as much flavor in the other components to have that extra mayo bit. That's awesome. Okay. All right, so with the seaweed, now a little thing on this one, try and get the best quality that you can. This one, I don't know if they're still available, but I bought this one. It was a pack of 100 sheets in one vacuum sealed package, and it's great value for money. And at the rate that I go through it, it's a very good idea. So what I would recommend is if you can go to some of the more Asian stores, Asian supply supermarkets, you should be able to get kind of the better value prices for that. So I'm just going to grab a fair few sheets here and just cut them into some more manageable sizes. So the way that I like to do that is just with a knife. I'm going to start in half. Okay, you got to put a fair bit of pressure down. And I'm going to double that up. And I'm just going to do triangles. Okay, so I'm going to go on an angle and then straight, on an angle and then straight, and last again. Okay, so then we've got, you might need to go through again if it's quite thick, but then we've just got some nice kind of triangle shapes that we can put into the salad. And they're really good snacks on their own. If you are already buying those little individual packages of these things for kids' lunchboxes or for snacks in the car, great idea in theory. Just have a think about the amount of packaging for that 5 grams of little amount of nori. So when you go and, like, not only is this going to be much more economical, but think about the impact of all that single-use packaging, please. Whether it's your cares for the environment or your cares for your grandchildren, just have a think about that. So I like I said, I buy it in one pack of 100, and you just make sure that whenever you seal the package, you just push all the air out, seal it really well. It's got a moisture absorbing package in there, and this has lasted me months. Okay, so not a worry there. All right, let's plate up. So we need our sushi rice, aka cauliflower rice, and that's had a good chance to kind of sit and meld into its flavors. So I'm going to be putting a little pile of that in the middle and building my bowl around that. So I'm going to start with about that much. Nothing too fancy. Okay, we've got our little bit of slaw kraut going around there somewhere. And it's just probably my own pedanticness, but I like to alternate colors. So instead of putting all the green on one side, I like to kind of change it up a little bit. So I'll put a little bit of yellow in there. Then I'll put some green because I've got mostly green here. A little bit of green, actually lots of nice yummy snow peas. Then we'll go maybe a bit of tomato. Okay, get some other colors in there. How about then some more green with our cucumber? Remember that we eat first with our eyes, so even if this step takes you a little bit longer than usual, I promise you it's going to taste better when you look at it and go, wow! At least I do that. It might be just me that's the geek. And then we've got our avocado. So however you want to present that, I would normally sneak as much of the avocado to myself as I can. It's definitely one of my favorite foods. And then we've got that in the dish. Okay. And we can put some of our yummy seaweed pieces, why not through the middle, as I did it before. So we'll just cut those in through the middle. And because they're so moorish and so easy to eat a lot of, you might want to have extras on the side. And I'm going to put all those in there. Okay, and then we can just put our little dollops of chili mayo around if you like, or just in one spot, just in case you're not sure you're not going to like it. And if you wanted, again, this can go in a little side dish so that you could pour that onto your individual salad. Otherwise, you could just give a few things a little sprinkle. So you've got some flavor through that. And if you're going to have the wasabi, then that's another option there. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to get pretty hungry. Is everyone caught up? Do we have any other questions? You guys are all good to go, I'm sure. Maybe you're getting and salivating as much like I am. But there we have it. This is a raw sushi bowl with cauliflower rice, and otherwise known as a deconstructed plate of sushi or a really yummy salad. I hope you guys like it. I know it's a little bit different maybe for some of you. Maybe you had to go and get some different ingredients, but now you have them. Now you can maybe recreate it. And keep in mind that a recipe is just a guide. So whatever you need to do, as you saw tonight, there are umpteen different ways that we can tweak, change, and customize to your liking. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time on Cook With Me. Enjoy.